You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast. Available on all major podcast platforms.
Weird Way Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bollywood Cinema Club. I am the host of the Culture Cast, Chris Stachiw. On every episode of the Bollywood Cinema Club, we take a look at an Indian cinema film from the past or present, but you know what? Most of the time, or almost every time, it's a film worth checking out. On this episode, I am joined by my good friend. You have heard him here before, talking about Brahmastra. He is one of the Brahmanch. I'm pretty sure he holds the Agni Astra. Film critic, graphic artist, one of my best friends, Dustin Rutledge.
Hello.
And on this episode of the Bollywood Cinema Club, it's kind of a sequel to the episode that we did about Brahmastra. We're talking about a film that features, well, it features several. It features a lot of the people from Brahmastra, the director, the star, a special cameo by one of the stars of this movie. We're going to be talking about 2013's cult classic, Yeh Jawaani Hai Deewani, otherwise known as This Youth is Crazy, sometimes abbreviated as YJHD. So the film is directed by Ayan Mukerji, based on a story and screenplay by Ayan Mukerji with dialogue by Hussain Dalal, and it stars the Agni Astra himself, Ranbir Kapoor as Bunny, aka Kabir Thapar, and Deepika as Dr. Naina Talwar. And the film is all about, well, the two of them and their friend group, along with Kalki Kochlan and Aditya Rai Kapoor. Well, they're a bunch of friends who go on a trip together. And then, as you would have it in an Indian cinema film, there's a time jump. They've all fallen out with one another, and they get back together at a wedding. Well, who gets back together? We'll be talking about that. This film came out in 2013, but we are going to be talking spoilers. Dustin, neither one of us had ever seen this film before, obviously. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me a little bit about your initial thoughts on YJHD.
Well, first of all, I've got to say I love how in like Bali cinema or Indian cinema, how everything uses acronyms. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, K3D, K3G, DDLJ, YJHD. I mean, you know, is there really an analog in American cinema? Not really. Star Wars is just Star Wars. Yeah. I guess TOS, the original series, TNG, the Next Generation.
MCU kind of comes close to it.
Yeah,
but it's not really the name of the movies.
I do like the abbreviations. I am a fan as well. Like,
even
and
the actors.
Well, yeah, SRK, yeah, Big B,
I
Amitabh,
love it.
There is just a general overwhelming sense of joy with Indian cinema. I feel it every time I watch an Indian cinema movie. I really do. Maybe it's just me with, I don't know, rose-tinted glasses, but tell me, Dustin, what did you think about YJHD?
So it was a rom-com, pretty much, if we were to draw a parallel to American cinema, right?
Yeah, I would say more or less. There's kind of some dramatic bits, but I think for the most part, it's a rom-com in the vein of, other late 2000s, early 10s rom-com.
So trying to think, the Bunny, I think he went by. He's kind of one of the main focuses of the movie, as is Naina. I thought so in looking at it through a romantic comedy lens, I thought they did a good job of, like, he's kind of this playboy guy. She's kind of a square, for lack of a better term. And they've got their whole journey that kind of happens that leads them to each other, away from each other, to each other, away from each other. So it's kind of a cool interplay with this type of movie. But I also like the cheekiness of the movie. I mean, so Bunny has his own flaws as a character, but I like the overall kind of cheekiness that the movie has. It was kind of what I expected from a rom-com type movie. Yeah, there's funny things in romantic comedies. There's some cheeky bits. This to me was just kind of like cheeky the whole way through, with some heavy moments. There are heavy moments. I was gonna say, there are, like in Western cinema, there are a ton of Indian rom-coms that I have not seen, but I have seen some of, admittedly, I think anyone would agree, the big ones: DDLJ, K3G, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, the big ones. I mean, DDLJ obviously is kind of the biggest one. It's one of the biggest Indian cinema films of all time. And it's the one that gets brought up in other movies. Heather and I were watching Dongle, and they're watching DDLJ in that movie. So that movie has pretty big cultural significance for Indian culture, at least Hindi cinema. Okay. So in a lot of ways, YJHD is the Gen Xer DDLJ, maybe millennial DDLJ. It's more in line with people our age, and probably people your age. You're a couple years older than me, but you're probably the age of the characters in this movie, right? Like I think that they're going on their kind of trip to the Himalayas. That would, like, that flashback, or that kind of before there's the time jump, that would be 8 years before 2013. So that's like what, 2005, right? So that's why I wanted to watch this with you in a way, because this is kind of the characters in this movie. It's speaking directly to your generation more so than even mine, right? Yeah.
And I think DDLJ is speaking to a different generation because it's the early 90s. So it's speaking to people that are like Gen Xers, at least maybe earlier Gen Xers. And I think it's interesting to watch kind of these two movies, because this is a cult classic, as it's called. And I think it's interesting because it is a very successful movie at telling a story about a specific kind of character and a specific group of characters. And these characters would seem familiar to you, whether or not you're Indian or American or, Australian or British even. That there's a kind of timelessness and placelessness to the characters that I think is eminently relatable, which I think is something that DDLJ maybe doesn't have as much, because DDLJ is a little bit more rooted in the...
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of The Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
disparity between the culture in India, between the older culture and the younger culture, and kind of them coming to heads. And this movie has a little bit of it, but that's not the focus of this movie. This movie is a different focus and a different character journey that the character of Bunny goes through versus SRK's character in DDLJ. It's a different expectation. And I think that this expectation is more in line with the issues that people your age and my age are dealing with, less the people like in DDLJ. There's a different cultural expectation that I think is more relatable for me. And I'm not saying I like this movie more than DDLJ, but I appreciated seeing a message that is more relatable for someone my age, but also the way those characters are being perceived by Indian cinema.
Well, and you kind of brought up an interesting point. Like this movie is, I think above all else, is about relationships in many different forms. You've got friendships, you've got kind of the love interest, you've got family relationships going on, and there's a lot of some of the messiness that happens in between those various ones. And like how you said, like with our generation, because leaving home, going on that adventure, having that core group of friends that you get into trouble with, like all that stuff's super relatable to me. That kind of stuff is script of my life, just in a different place, Right. And how there can be tension between friends. You can have that crush that just isn't going to work out. You can have, your parents don't want you to leave, but they know you have to. And this is all happening at that age when your parents are aging, and, you miss out on time with family because you're out doing your own thing, discovering yourself. And so, there's a lot to that. And like just the different relationships, the way people love each other, like that was all touched on in this movie. That part was pretty cool. I mean, there were moments of it, brings you to tears, and not much is said.
Yeah, there are a couple moments towards the end of this movie that are flashbacks that really hit hard in a way that it's not that I wasn't expecting, because I definitely cried at the end of DDLJ as well, but it was for different reasons. It's in that movie, it's less about the relationship with your own parents, more relationship with your student, like with your spouses or significant others' parents, and kind of pleasing them and their relationship with their parents, less your relationship with your parents. And this movie, it's about your relationship with your parents and your relationship with other people your age, which I appreciate. Like you said, I do appreciate that. I think it's also really smart that the movie is more about Deepika Padukone's character, because she's the main character of the movie.
She is, yeah.
And she plays a very, I would say, a very stereotypical, she's a medical student. She's very focused on her studies. She feels like a stereotype. And I think that all the characters in this movie feel like stereotypes, but I think that there are very few kinds of movies where that works. And rom-coms are one of them. I think rom-coms work with stereotype characters because writing a character broadly means certain members of the audience can immediately associate with that character or understand that character, immediately. They don't need a lot of subtext. It's pretty obvious who these characters are, and they're written very broadly and very large because, again, larger characters with broader emotions work in movies that are comedies or in this rom-coms where, you're going to be putting these characters through the ringer. And in a lot of rom-coms, the characters wouldn't be together at the end because they've been put through such a ringer. But again, if you write them as broadly as possible, it kind of works. All the characters in this movie are stereotypes. Bunny is a womanizer. Naina is just a book nerd. You have Adi, who is, the tease, and then you have Avi, who's kind of the dark and serious one. But they're all people that we know, or we are one of them. But that's what works about movies like this, regardless of who's making them, like you said, regardless of the Indian version or the Japanese version or the Mexican cinema version or the American cinema. Like they all are going to be hewing very close to the same kinds of characters, but putting them in scenarios that I think are more or less universal than more. But again, they all kind of have a universality to them, but they have a flavor of where they are. And we kind of see that in this movie. But I will say, because Naina is the main character, Bunny is used sparingly. And as much as I do like Ranbir Kapoor in this movie, his character is a little much, right? At least the first maybe hour, because this movie is 159 minutes. So, I mean, again, we're talking, 2.5 hours. So his character would be a lot if he was the main character. I'm glad he's not, but he's in a lot of the first half of the movie pre-intermission. His character is very, shall we say, immature.
Yeah. You do spend a lot of the movie, like you get invested in again, I'll say the cheeky flirting back and forth between his character and Naina's, and you just want him to, you want to reach the screen and smack him, knock it off.
Yeah, there's a scene early on where they're on the train together, and this is, I guess within this is the day that they've kind of reacquainted one another, because they knew each other from school, but they more or less traveled in similar circles but weren't friends with each other. And early on, Naina is sitting there with Adi and Avi and Bunny, and these kind of girls from the train show up, and Bunny is hitting on one of them pretty hard. This character will show up again later in the movie, which makes us all feel very Shakespearean and very kind of grand and epic that they're all in this circle already, even though they don't know it yet, because I guess that woman on the train is the sister of the guy that Adi ends up marrying at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which it just feels all very grand and epic, right? I mean, again, we've seen this now in several Indian cinema movies, like in K3G, where it all feels so kind of grandiose. Oh, you knew them then and they're here again. And but early on, Bunny is just hitting on all these women, and he seems like such a scumbag
in front of
this woman that he really likes, clearly. And again, but you can't tell if he just likes her because she's a good looking woman or if there is more to it. And that's never answered in the first half of the movie. I guess they do kind of answer it obviously right at the end, but being a romantic comedy, it has the I almost tell you, or I need to tell you something moment. And then I hate that.
Something interrupts it. Yeah.
I hate that. It is so lazy, right? It is lazy. It's a plot contrivance. Because in real life, you'd be just say it. This is going to be you don't know the chance you're going to get. It's funny because this movie is rather well written, other than really having those stereotypical rom-com moments. It's rather well written outside of those moments where it's just I've seen other movies do this before.
But gosh, for some reason they work. Rom-coms are not normally my bag. And here I was 2.5 hours into this thing. Just get together.
Just get together already. Stop with the back and forth.
Yeah.
But that is the thing that's nice about the first half of the movie is we kind of get to see and understand why these characters are the way that they are with one another. And, if you tell someone in an American cinema goer, right, this is a rom-com, it's 2.5 hours, they would be no fucking way. I'm out of here. Or something like DDLJ, I think, is even longer than this. But here's the thing, the fact that these movies are able to give us, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Bunny's character in the first half of the movie, he feels like a complete character. He feels like a completely well thought out, completely fully realized character who I understand his wants, his needs, and what he's kind of trying to do with his life. And I again, it's 2.5 hours, and that's a lot for a rom-com, but I'm completely invested because they spend all that time doing that. Otherwise, I'm not invested because they take the time to tell us. Yeah. They take the time to tell us who these characters are, and not just tell us, but show us, give us these situations that the characters are going through together where they're climbing the mountain together. And then they talk about, at the top of the mountain, your dream will come true. And so, somebody's going to go up there, and they go up there together. Naina and Bunny do. And it's this kind of poignant little moment between the two of them that, does lead other places. And it's not an easy ask for an American cinema goer to willingly watch a 2.5 hour rom-com, but that feels like a fucking shame because the rom-coms that end up coming out are rushing. They're not taking the time to give you characters to get invested in.
And what happens with that is 20 minutes in, you already know the formula of how this movie is going to go. With the movie you're talking about, like those rushed ones, you already know the formula of it. Whereas this, like I thought I knew, okay, yeah, they're going to get together. But then there's moments it's like, oh, maybe they're not. Like it actually kind of throws you. And for all those characters, really, like everything that kind of happened towards the end, I didn't quite expect.
Well, and, I'm trying to think of, rom-coms that I like, the Western ones, because I don't watch a lot of them any more than I'm assuming you do willingly. I mean, we're both married, we both have significant others, and I don't know if you're getting roped into watching rom-coms. I'm not really. I actually don't have as much of an aversion as one might think. They're not something that either my wife or I like to watch, but like one of the ones that sticks out to me that I like, that I think people think is a rather long rom-com, is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah,
it's like almost 2 hours long. It's like 111 minutes, but you go on a complete journey with the characters. By the end of it, you're not sure if the characters are going to get together. They actually do a pretty good job of faking you out to think that they won't even. Like it's kind of a more mature, well thought out romantic comedy that does also have a dramatic side to it. And this movie feels very much of that same time and place, because they don't make rom-coms like this anymore, even in Western cinema. Like I think kind of, it feels like in a little ways the rom-coms are dead, at least Western cinema rom-coms. Like, that there was like that Rebel Wilson movie that came out a couple years ago that was like a parody of rom-coms. She got sucked into a rom-com. And I felt like that was like the death knell of rom-coms. When that kind of movie comes out, they kind of go into hibernation for a while so that everybody can forget all the tropes, or maybe some people can reapproach the tropes and, a return to the rom-coms of old type thing. But this movie feels very much in that same vein. Like it's edgy. It has a little edginess, but it does have rather likable, even with someone like Avi, who's kind of an unlikable character. As much as Bunny is, he's unlikable, but he feels real. He doesn't feel, He feels like a real person. He feels flawed. Bunny feels flawed like a real person would be flawed.
Yep. And how all their friends are dealing with something. And like when you mentioned they kind of grow apart, it becomes clear that those friendships were really important to everyone in the group one way or another. And the fact that everybody grew apart, like, kind of caused problems. Like, Avi kind of went into, like, he had nobody to lean on, and he was gambling and drinking and
losing his business, I guess. Like,
yeah, everybody's just kind of lost, especially him. He probably needed those friendships more than anybody.
But he acts like he doesn't.
Yeah, you kind of get a sense of like how important that becomes and like how broken he is without it.
Well, and I think it's really smart it is effectively in a lot of ways two movies, right? I mean, you have the moment up until Bunny and Naina are standing there, and Bunny is not being honest with his friends, and he hasn't told them that he's going to Northwestern for journalism, which obviously is about as far away from Delhi and where they are as humanly possible. And he hasn't told them, and they've all grown close throughout this trip to the Himalayas together. And Bunny is not interested in growing together with Naina. He wants to go out on his own, and he doesn't know that she loves him. And that's that kind of scene that we've already talked a little bit about where, again, just fucking say it. Like, it may not have changed anything, but just fucking say it, obviously.
Yeah. He pretty much just says he wants to live life hard and fast.
Right. And, he wants to travel and see the world. And then we get an 8-year jump. I really appreciate again, because it's all set dressing for the second half of the movie. It really feels like just, you could sit down and watch the movie after the intermission, and I think you would probably get more or less the entire film. Like, you would get more or less the gist of what's going on. You would get the connections of the characters, because they do kind of talk about the things that have happened before. They don't just not reference it. I mean, you would think we've just seen it in the movie. You don't have to reference it, but they do kind of bring some of those things up, and they kind of reference these moments that have happened before, which feels kind of TV sensibility in a way. But I appreciate that you could watch the second half without the first half, but by watching both parts and getting the entire film, it feels like a much more it feels like such a well thought out narrative. It really does.
Yeah.
Even though it's pretty basic. I don't think it's trying to really break the mold of what I would consider a rom-com is, even if it isn't in English.
Right. And I was kind of surprised, impressed. The gal who played Aditi, she's like a French actress.
Yep. Sure is.
That blew, I mean, wow.
And she works primarily in Hindu cinema.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Like,
she was in, I think she's in Gully Boy, as she's like kind of shows up for a while in Gully Boy. And I remember seeing her in that being like, like I'd never seen her before, but like she's fucking amazing in this movie.
Good. Yeah.
Her character, I mean, we all know somebody like her character, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I know somebody like everybody in this movie. I don't think I am any of these characters. I that they don't resonate with me like that, but I feel like I know people like everybody in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
for sure.
She plays a really interesting version of that kind of character.
Yeah. Just a little, at the beginning of the movie, she's just a little aloof, just kind of ride the wave of the lights.
Friend.
Yeah. Get, the one that the parents don't really want you to hang out with.
Kind of a free thinking friend, as it were.
Yeah. Oh, she was an art student. Oh.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that means. I mean, I get it. I mean, they do have these early scenes in the movie with Naina's parents, and then we have the scene with Bunny's parents as well, and that kind of comes back later in the movie. But this isn't a story about the interactions between the parents and the kids. There is a nice, poignant moment at the end of the movie that has to do with Bunny's parents, but that's more about Bunny's growth as a character and the things he's missed out on, less his interaction with his parents.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that this movie is more about your interaction with your friends and those relationships that you've made with the people that you choose to be your family versus the people that you're born into.
Right. Yeah. I kind of like, having step parents, like just the brief moments that Bunny interacts with his dad and stepmom and stuff, like those are relatable too, because like it's just different with like your step parents, and his stepmom brings him like that sherbet drink, and he takes a sip and he's like, it's terrible.
And always has been.
Yeah, and it's basically just because it's not his mom's. If his mom made it, it'd have been the best.
Right. And that's interesting because in most Indian cinema, we aren't dealing with like step parents. We're dealing with like grandparents or aunts and uncles. Yeah. And a step parent, just like, it was interesting to see that was kind of the relationship they chose to focus on. The familial relationship that they do focus on is the stepmother.
To me, if Bunny had that family life, like he probably wanted to, like, it's not, his mom's gone. He probably has some stuff going on with that. He's not the biggest fan of his stepmom. I mean, she's probably fine, but like he didn't choose her,
Right.
And so yeah, he wants to get the heck out of there and just go carve his own way through the world. So I don't know, that
immensely relatable from the sound.
Kind of spoke to me a little bit, yeah.
Which I really love that this movie spoke to you in that way. Like, no, I'm dead serious, because again, like I can never know watching one of these movies, because a lot of the times I don't watch them first to figure out if they're worth watching. I want to experience it together. Like we'll watch it, maybe not together, but we'll watch it and then we'll end up talking about it and sharing that at the same time. And I never know. I mean, I did an episode with Otto and Adam, and we talked about Charulata, which one of us was a fan of and two of us weren't, but we didn't know that going into it. So yeah. I find it interesting because that didn't speak to me in the same way, because I don't have that similar experience. But what did speak to me was that interaction he kind of has with his father who's not there. And that's just like beyond heartbreaking. And I mean, because he has the flashback to, his dad talking about, what would make you happy? And he's like, whatever makes you happy is what makes me happy. And he's like, well, I just needed to hear you say that to know like that's what matters. And that is just like, I wasn't expecting that in this movie, and it does kind of come out of nowhere.
It does. Yeah, that was one of the tearjerkers.
Yeah. And I think it also goes with Farouk Sheikh, who plays Bunny's dad. It is just, he's such a nice looking guy. Like he just seems like he seems like a really genuine human being. Yeah. And you understand kind of
gentle soul.
Right. And so you can kind of see why Bunny is the way that he is, maybe, like with the dad that he has, who seems like just this like genuinely nice guy who's like, I just want you to be happy. Which again, like in Indian cinema, the expectation is like, with Naina's parents, you see her relationship with them. It's like, you're going to go do this. Like, don't go do anything else. Like, do you want to go on vacation? Like, just kidding. Like, don't do that. Like but that's the expectation, and it's an expectation that is going away. That is I mean, even in our Western society, we struggle with that. I mean, that's something that a lot of people our age really struggled with is, the expectations of your parents, and what are your parents' expectations for you, and what are they putting on you because of themselves and their shortcomings or perceived shortcomings. And there's not a lot of that in this movie, but they kind of hint at it, it feels like. And I appreciate that once again, we do have a movie that doesn't have a happy ending, yes, but it also has like an honest ending, I think, as well. Like it's honest with the journey of the characters. It doesn't sugarcoat it.
Yep.
Like I don't think American films would have the Avi character ending where he ended. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And I definitely thought something bad was going to happen to Avi.
And then they put it in that direction.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool that towards the end, like for a group that was so tight together, and then they drew apart, and then at the end they're all back together, but not in the same places. Like they're all still separated, but they're together, just in a different way.
Well, and I mean, I think obviously, now more than ever, obviously this film came out in 2013, so the before times, but now more than ever in these kind of, hard to describe to anybody other than the people who are alive during it times, so they would say unprecedented, it's important to keep in touch with people and check in with each other and be there for each other. You and I, our friendship is very much in a lot of ways. I mean, we've never talked about it on a recording or anything, but we live rather close to one another, but we have really not had a lot of opportunities to hang out, primarily because our friendship started like the week of the pandemic, it feels like, in a lot of ways. The first time we ever hung out was the March of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the second week of March.
Our friendship grew in a non, in-person way.
Right.
So that's how it's what we know.
Right. And there are plenty of people that I podcast with that I have never met. There have been people that I have podcasted with and then they have passed away or gone out of the podcasting business entirely, and I have not talked to them in years. So it's kind of weird because we're all still existing at the same time. It's just a matter of picking up the phone and calling them. And I have plenty of friends that I haven't spoken to in years, but I know I could pick up the phone and call them. It's just life gets in the way, things get in the way. And that would not have felt relatable in 2013 either. But yet it feels relatable now. Because the character of Bunny, I would have said, it's impossible for me to believe that people who are that close could not talk for 8 years. But I think we both could attest to friendships or people we know that we could talk to that we haven't talked to. And maybe not as long a time, but close to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
People that were massive parts of our lives for long periods of time. And that's the thing, they really weren't. And that's what I like about this movie is this is kind of less about the people that you're really good friends with and more the people that you were really good friends with for a minute, because it's for a summer, right? They were friends for a summer. I mean, they did know each other, but they weren't super well acquainted, but they got really well acquainted over that summer. And I like that it's more about this one summer that changed everything. They just didn't know it.
Right.
Which that is very romanticized, right? I mean, did you have a summer growing up where everything changed like this?
Probably not to this kind of dramatic swing, but
right.
But yeah,
it has been 8 years since, so we can say it hasn't happened yet. But
yeah,
and the time is theoretically passed. So
no, I can say that I've probably had that great summer. Friends were there, met some new ones, And to this day, I haven't talked to some of them people.
Right.
But if I were to ever see him, it would be like this awesome reunion, you know?
I had a summer where I hung out with a group of people that some of them were there only for the summer for like a med school intern program. And I knew one of them from high school. And so I would like hang out with them every night for like 2 months type thing. I haven't talked to any of them since. And it's like, it's weird to think about because like they're not going to come back into my life in the way that these characters did. I have very much gone in a different direction, different person entirely. You know, you probably, you have a family now type thing. So we're all in different places than I think any of us maybe thought we would be. I guess it would be 11 years ago now for this group of people. But it is funny that, it's such a relatable idea that you can make this kind of story around those friends you had one summer that end up
being... You had that one time.
Yeah, that one time that end up being, you can't get them out of your mind. And that's the thing, like, Bunny does come back.
Yeah. Well, and I like how it starts off with Naina kind of going out of her comfort zone, and she is in Bunny's comfort zone, doing the wild, crazy stuff.
Right.
And then it flips. He comes back for this wedding, and now he's kind of on her home turf, in her comfort zone with the families in the community and all that. And he kind of struggles at first with like, he needs to get back out into the world. This is dragging him down. But then obviously he comes to realize otherwise.
And I like that the second half of the movie is all essentially more or less set at the wedding in Rajasthan, in Udaipur, which the time I went to India, that is one of the places that we went to in India was Udaipur. And it is a great place to have a destination wedding in India. It's beautiful. It is just like a giant lake in the middle of the town. I mean, you kind of see it in the movie. They show it. I mean, they show a lot of like traveling on like boats when they're showing establishing shots. But the imagery in the second half of the movie and like the setting and the production value, I mean, it's impressive. I mean, they're setting it in a place that's already beautiful, but a great, a kind of a great contrast to the beginning of the movie, which... It's not that there wasn't a lot of like interesting stuff to look at, but it was less about what they were doing and more about the interactions with the characters. Yeah. And I like that the second half of the movie also sets it somewhere that's really kind of interesting and nice to look at it. And it feels very specific to, I'm not going to say specific to India, but specific to Indian cinema. It doesn't just feel like some hotel somewhere. It feels like a hotel in Udaipur that has this kind of very interesting architectural look to it.
Yeah, I noticed that architecture, and like when they're kind of sneaking around trying to find out what the groom's dance is going to be, like there's like scaling the wall and coming down onto this other wall to like see what they're doing and kind of hang up half upside down to peek in there. And I was like, you couldn't do that in a regular building or house.
Right.
Like because of how the architecture is, they were able to do what they did.
Right. What did you think of Kunal Roy Kapoor as Tehran, Aditi's husband, the character that we meet in the second half of the movie? I didn't know I couldn't tell if the movie wanted me to laugh at him or with him. Like I could never really get a read on his character because he's kind of the odd man out. He would theoretically be like the audience in an American cinema movie. You could tell a movie from his point of view, right? And there have been where it's like the person who comes into the family or the group of friends from the outside.
Well, my first impression of him was he's kind of like just a goob, like a goober, like just a little, like who's this guy? Like he's not part of their group. He's nothing like them. And
like Ben Stiller from Meet the Parents.
Yeah. He's just kind of an outsider or, almost kind of a nerd.
Well, that's the way they paint him. They paint him as this like socially awkward guy, but like it's weird. Like towards the end of the movie, they kind of drop that. Like I don't get it. Like he wears like Hawaiian shirts, so we're clearly supposed to think he's like kind of a dork. But like someone like Adi, her character, the way that she's played, like she wouldn't be with someone like that. Like they make it very clear. So whatever, I'm just trying to look for that moment where I understand what her character sees in him.
Yeah. And wasn't Avi kind of into her?
I guess like that's what I could never figure out in the first half of the movie is Avi and Adi aren't a thing. A thing.
And I thought something was going to happen. I thought they were going to get together and like before the wedding happened, but it was became a moment of she basically says that guy, the person she is marrying, she's a better person with that person. And
which, given where Avi's character kind of is in this movie when we come back to him, makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of a dickhead in the first half of the movie. I mean, they get into this giant set piece of a fight that's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom kind of adjacent, where they're chased through the streets by these kind of dickheads that they piss off accidentally, though I guess it kind of makes sense later that Avi is an alcoholic, but
yeah.
Kind of don't understand what's going on, and they kind of have this chase through the streets of a Himalayan town, which is a really well done set piece for a rom-com. Holy cow, like was entertained throughout.
Yeah. And everybody's got that friend that wants to start a fight.
Right.
Or like Audie doesn't keep her mouth shut. She just keeps yelling at him and like, bring it on.
We all have one of those friends, right?
Yeah.
But like she, again, like her character and Avi, I don't kind of, it feels kind of like a missed opportunity. They could have gone into it a little bit more in the second half of the movie because it feels like they spend a fair amount of time in the first part of the movie pre-intermission kind of talking about their relationship.
Yeah.
Or their relationship is kind of 1B to Bunny and Naina's 1A. And it doesn't really get wrapped up in a meaningful or even successful way. I don't think it gets wrapped up successfully. Their relationship. I feel like she just kind of goes, well, I feel better when I'm with him than I'm with you, which again makes sense. He's an alcoholic. He's gambling. He's really down on his luck when we come back to him post intermission. But that's it. Like that's as far as it goes. And it feels like a missed opportunity because, Dita Roy Kapoor is a fantastic actor. He's really good as Avi. It's a little on the nose. I mean, it's not anything new with that kind of character. He's gambling and he's an alcoholic again, right?
Yeah.
But that interaction between Avi and Audie was so good and so interesting, their kind of chemistry back and forth, that I would have liked to have seen them do a little bit more, even if the conclusion doesn't change. Like, I'm not saying change so that she ends up with him at the end of the movie. I think the important message is to not have them be together, but they should have approached it because it wasn't just a throwaway relationship. And that's kind of the way it felt. It felt like they focused more on Bunny and Naina in the second half of the movie. And they had an opportunity to focus on both. I mean, the character is still there. Like, it's not like they wrote him out of the movie.
Yeah.
They focus more on Bunny and Avi than they do on Avi and Audie in the second half of the movie.
I think Bunny was he's kind of a disruptive force. Not always disruptive, but just a force.
Right.
Within the friendship group where he's more important to them than he realizes. He doesn't realize that till towards the end.
Well, it turns out he's the glue.
Yeah. And here he thought that he was just like the feather in the wind.
Right. He's the goof of the group.
Yeah.
But he doesn't realize the goof can be the glue. I don't know if you're the glue for some of your friend groups, but I 100% am for certain aspects of certain angles of my friend group. I am 100% the glue for some of those, to the point where, because I don't talk to those people enough or as much or at all, other people are not talked to either, or they have lost touch with people.
Yeah.
Like I can directly trace, though I would never take credit for it, one group of people that I know, a marriage exists more or less, not because of me, but we met those people we met the people that ended up forming a relationship with someone else I knew because of me, which is insane.
I have one of those.
Right. And I only met one of those people because I knew someone that he had gone to. I met him because I knew his roommate, because his roommate went to high school with me. So I would never have even met him if I had not gone to high school with his roommate, who I'm not even friends with now. It's insane. Like, to be the glue is not something you ask for. It just kind of happens.
Right. And it just, everybody together has a good time, and you can tell that group is a good group when they're together. So somebody has to, sometimes it just happens organically, but somebody has to be the one to make sure that group gets together.
Like, I have friends who lived in the same apartment complex together, didn't know it, then found out, And even after finding out, didn't hang out because I didn't live in Texas, because I was the one that got the whole friend group together because nobody ever hung out separately. And some people didn't have a way to hang out. You know what? It's like, it's just, I don't know. Like it's interesting because I don't empathize with the bunny character in the movie because he's very different from me. But all of the characters are more or less just a personality type or a part of a whole in some respects. Yeah. And the bunny character, I definitely emotionally resonated with more some of the aspects of the character arc that he has. Because that whole thing about being the glue, it kind of sucks. Like it really does kind of suck in a way.
Yeah. It keeps you tethered, and he didn't want to be tethered.
Right, exactly.
And I'm 2 movies into this genre of film, but here I am 2 movies in with Brahmastra being the first one, and now this one. And just every scene, like song and dance scene that comes up, I'm like looking forward to them now. I'm like, these are fun. They're catchy.
As you should be. Like for me, I completely understand as a Westerner going, oh my God, this action movie has, okay, so Pratam, who did the music for this movie, also did the title track for Doom, which is the first one is very much a Indian response to Fast and the Furious. It's a motorcycle racing movie. But he did the music for that movie, but it has great musical numbers too. And so does the second one. I haven't watched the third one yet, but we're going to watch it for this show at some point. What's interesting is for me, the whole musical numbers in the movie, like we always kind of talk about it as this like the musical or it's a musical. These movies aren't musicals. Music is in these movies. There are musical numbers in these movies the same way there are giant CGI set pieces in Marvel movies. There happen to also be musical numbers in giant MCU style movies like Brahmastra, a movie we just watched. In Entheron, they had musical numbers. The most expensive Indian cinema film when it came out. 2.0, a movie that we'll be talking about eventually, the sequel to Entheron, doesn't have musical numbers. It has one at the end. Indian cinema has now changed its format in response to Western cinema, and they don't necessarily have musical numbers. A film like Tumbad, a movie that I really liked, so did Father Malone when we talked about it, it doesn't have a single musical number in the entire film. That feels like it would have been surprising if it had come out in the 80s or 90s in Indian cinema, because everything that I've seen, including Parinda, a Indian Mumbai hard-boiled crime film that has a twist ending on the level of or exceeding The Departed, has musical numbers. Imagine if The Departed had musical numbers. That's that kind of film, that genre of film. But like, once you just kind of accept that they're going to be there because this is the style of Indian filmmaking, is music is a big part of the culture and it's a big part of filmmaking. It is some of, if not the best parts of these films.
Oh, yeah.
This movie's no different. The musical number that they have at the wedding, the groom's dance is fantastic. The bride's dance is fantastic. And then the Kabira number is an earworm if I've ever heard one.
Oh, man, yeah. Yep.
And you know what? We haven't really talked about him. We've talked about his character, but we talked about him a lot when we were talking about Brahmastra because he is one of the Brahmanchk. What did you think of Ranbir Kapoor in this movie versus him in Brahmastra?
Way better.
Like night and day. Like I think what's more surprising for me than anything else is that the director and writer of this movie wrote Brahmastra. Not that Ranbir Kapoor is good, but that Ayan Mukerji, this is a later film that he's writing 9 years later, and Brahmastra is, at least from a dialogue standpoint, feels like a student film compared to this movie. If like a night and day. YJHD is such a well thought out, well made film from a dialogue standpoint that it made the two of us cry. And what's sad is Hussain Dalal wrote the dialogue for YJHD. And I think, I'm not going to say Ayan Mukerji needs someone else to write the dialogue for him, but he needs someone else to write the dialogue for him, because we literally said like
noticeable difference in, the way in the moments of the movie that like really need to deliver, really need to land them. Like you're bought in this movie. And in Brahmastra, they don't hit that way.
They're so generic and stilted and feels like characters in a movie talking to each other. In YJHD, it feels like real people. And mind you, these movies, Brahmastra is 167 minutes, and this movie ain't much shorter than that. To me, it's just like, okay, so this movie is 159 minutes. That movie's 166 minutes or whatever. Like, if you have such a disparity between the two movies, oh, wait, you don't have a disparity between the time spent telling the story. And yet this movie feels like every character is a real human. And Brahmastra feels like a less than one-dimensional character. And Hussain Dalal is and should be given all of the credit for the successes of the characters in this movie. Okay, I take all of this back, and we're going to have to re-record this entire section. Hussain Dalal wrote the dialogue for Brahmastra, and Hussain Dalal wrote the dialogue for YJHD. How is that possible? Is that just the expectations were different? Like they watched an MC. Is it this? They watched MCU movies and they saw and interpreted them through the Indian cinema lens, and that's what they're getting. And it's actually kind of hilarious in a way, because it's almost in effect, a kind of taking the piss out of MCU movies, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Well,
intentionally or unintentionally.
Like, are they watching MCU movies and saying, this is just action and effects? We can do that. And, if that's what they're getting out of it, when they watch our MCU movie, so that's what they put into this one, be like, the action and the effects will carry it. When I don't know.
But I remember that scene at the beginning of Brahmastra with SRK where he's doing the thing and I am the monkey. I mean, that was kind of fun.
That was.
Everything else is, like, oh, you are a rock star, man. Like, okay, like what?
Mr. Scientist.
Mr. Scientist. Oh my God, fucking Christ, Mr. Scientist. I just remember that. But you are a rock star, man. Like, all right, whatever. I feel like, look, the rom-com, they got it. Like DDLJ exists, right? Kuch Kuch Hota Hai exists. K3G exists. Like all these amazing romantic comedies already exist in Indian cinema. MCU movies are kind of a new genre of creation, right? Like superhero movies are a contemporary idea. Romantic comedies kind of exist since, Much to Do About Nothing, Shakespeare. Shakespeare would write comedies and dramas. The comedies tend to have romance in. That's why I kind of always say with something, it feels grandiose and Shakespearean in a way. Like these people are all connected, and Adi's husband, his sister, is his sister or cousin, is the woman that Bunny was crushing on at the beginning of the movie. Like it all is so connected, and it feels so kind of grandiose. But like superhero movies aren't that. Like they're grandiose in a, like you said, CGI and big effects. And, I always say on the Culture Cast, a CGI fuckfest, because that's what it ends up being at the end of most of these MCU movies. I mean, we could just start naming them off. And for the most part, it's just a giant CGI fuckfest, often with a mirror image version of the hero. Ant-Man, a movie that I love. Yellow Jacket. Yes, Yellow Ant-Man. Black Panther. Purple and Black Panther. Yellow and Black Panther. Like, fucking Christ. Like, for the most part, all the movies that aren't the Avengers ones, at least early on MCU, are just a reverse of our hero. So, Brahmastra kind of is that. Yeah,
they're fighting just bad magicians.
Yeah, but Iron Man as a movie, Jon Favreau's dialogue is not that stilted.
True.
Hussain Dalal can write fantastic dialogue.
As we've seen.
YJHD made me cry, clearly made you cry. Brahmastra made me cry, but not in the way that they intended. I was crying from laughing at some of the really ham-fisted, dorky dialogue. You are a rock star. Like, okay, like Mr. Scientist, like some of the stuff that just like is kind of cringy and feels like it's trying to be like a catchphrase or like something that someone else thinks someone who is cool would say, but does not understand what cool people say, but yet did at one point, or at least believable people. And Ranbir Kapoor is fantastic in this movie. And he's okay in Brahmastra, but in YJHD, he's fantastic.
Yeah, very, really got invested in the movie. I liked it.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting, kind of given what we got out of Brahmastra. But they're so different. They don't even, like, Brahmastra doesn't even feel like it was made by the same director as this movie. Like, it just feels so, I mean, okay, even if the scenes, if we think about Brahmastra, right, take the action scenes and just don't worry about those, right? Because I think we both agree those were pretty good. If the scenes between the characters were like the scenes between the characters in this movie, dude, Brahmastra would have been wild.
Oh, it would have been epic.
Like Iron Man, right? Like it would have had the same impact that Iron Man did. Where it's like, I'm immediately invested in these characters and I want to see more. But we are invested in Brahmastra. We still want to see the next one. But like I needed that kind of relatable, maybe not quotable, but I needed relatable characters who talked like real people. And when you're making a rom-com about 20-somethings who become 30-somethings, like you need, and especially if you're trying to get relatable across to your audience, you need to really nail the dialogue, and they do. And then you watch Brahmastra and you're like, what happened here?
Yeah. It would have put it over the top.
Yeah, there's so many people from that movie that are in this movie. Ranbir Kapoor, Ayan Mukerji directing. Deepika Padukone is in Brahmastra in a rather small role, obviously, playing Ranbir Kapoor's mom, which is kind of strange. But it's so weird because the reason we watch this is because we watch Brahmastra. And so there has to be a moment where we kind of mention Brahmastra, or at least acknowledge that these movies exist. One exists because of the other. Brahmastra exists because of this movie, because of how successful this movie was. This movie got nominated for Filmfare Awards, which is, again, like we've already talked about, the Indian cinema equivalent of the Oscars. So it didn't win any, but it was nominated for film and director and actor and actress and supporting actor and supporting actress and for music. So it was nominated for all of them because it really resonated with people in India. And again, we've kind of talked about how this movie would resonate with most people, I think, outside of India. So as long as it's, I mean, again, that's the kind of the question I have as we bring this episode to a close about this movie. If you're not someone my age, if you're not someone your age, can you still enjoy this movie?
I think so. At the heart of it, it's relationships, and even if you're someone younger, early 20s into the romantic comedy type movie, I think it would still almost kind of give a glimpse into what is yet to come, and kind of connect to it that way. I don't know. I think it could speak to a lot of people in that way.
Yeah, I that's kind of my always concern with these movies about like a certain generation, like Dazed and Confused, right? Or Empire Records, or I mean, in a little way, like Office Space, right? Like a certain generation or group of people, or Waiting, even like a group of people that like are a very specific group that you can point at and say, I knew people like that, or I was that, and I'm not that anymore, or we aren't that anymore. And I always worry that people watching it who aren't of that generation or aren't interested will have no interest in watching it. And I think there may be enough in this movie to bring people back. I think Ranbir Kapoor is great. I think all the main four actors are all fantastic. Like you mentioned, the music is great. But I do think that this movie maybe resonates with a certain audience, but I do worry that I think it probably wouldn't resonate with a younger audience. Might find Ranbir Kapoor's character a little too problematic. I think people older than you might
get put off by him. Yeah.
Right. I think people older than you might be kind of put off by, how kind of cavalier Bunny is, and, how they might be throwing their kind of ills to the wind about, I don't know. I feel like people older than us might get it, but I think people younger than me would definitely find problems with this movie, which is fine. I mean, I'm sure there's problems with Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Rom-coms tend to be movies that don't age necessarily very well in a lot of ways. They just don't. And kind of like how action movies sometimes don't age very well because, we're not necessarily killing all the Ruskies anymore, but God, so many movies in the 80s would really have, again, you see what I mean. So I feel like, I don't know, this movie, I maybe wouldn't resonate the same with everybody else, but I'm glad it exists for people my age and your age because it is a interesting look at a time and a place that while we didn't live there, we can definitely empathize and sympathize with and see ourselves in these characters, or at least some of the better traits of the characters, or some of the faults of the character.
Agreed.
So yeah, final thoughts on the film, Dustin.
Well, as we've said, it's very relatable. I just like it checks a lot of boxes in that you've got the window to the relationships, you've got the love story, not just between just two main characters, but the other characters as well that you're kind of like investigating as the movie goes. And I don't know, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that the cheekiness throughout is just keeps it fun and light, even though there are some really deep moments. Like you're still having fun in the movie. And I also like that it, honest to God, made me look up DIY recipes for that sherbet drink, and I want to make them.
So that's a success.
So, yeah.
Well, and I'm glad that you are open-minded with these movies because I say rom-com and I'm not interested in a Western rom-com, like for the most part. So I feel like I can say this not with absolute certainty, but with some prior evidence to back it up. I feel like Indian cinema has really mastered the rom-com. Like,
I'd agree with that statement.
Like,
yeah.
The best rom-coms that I've seen for the most part are Indian cinema ones. And those are the ones that I would rather rewatch. I'd rather rewatch DDLJ, which is a 3-hour movie, than 50 First Dates, which is like an hour and a half. So, and that's, 50 First Dates, I think, is a pretty good American rom-com in a lot of ways. It's like When Harry Met Sally, another pretty well-known rom-com. But, with something like YJHD, it talks to a certain group of people in a way that they can totally understand because the people who are writing it are of that age, are of that group of people. So eminently relatable because you're part of that group.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoy that it's a rom-com of a different stripe than DDLJ, but it's still an Indian cinema rom-com, so it has those things that I was hoping for, while talking about some different cultural issues that I think are more boundary hopping than DDLJ, which I think makes this a little bit more relatable for more people, but also has some things in it that I think make this almost solely for a certain generation or group of people. So, if it sounds interesting, definitely check it out. You can find it on Eros now, which is $5 a month for all the Indian cinema that you can consume and Indian TV shows and original content. No, we're not sponsored by them, but this is where you can watch that movie.
Yeah. That is the ocean to find them in.
Yeah, it was distributed by Eros internationally, so that's where you can find it. As for me and for this show, Weirding Way Media is where you can find us. This show is available on all podcast platforms, so rate and review on iTunes or wherever you get this show. Dustin, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, I am glad you appreciated and enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
Not that I was really worried, but I had never seen it either, so it could have just been a dud, and we both could have not liked it.
True.
Yeah. So yeah. And as always, we'll catch you on the next episode.